I actually have to turn the brightness down on this. Turns out I'm way unprepared. All right, let's go. That way I can see the screen. Okay, so today I really just want to go live and talk to you guys about autoflowers and how I feel about autoflowers. Go over, will I talk about autoflowers in the future as I grow them? And quite frankly, a lot of reasons I don't personally like autoflowers. Like, if I didn't do content, I probably wouldn't want to deal with them for a myriad of reasons. But I think I'll just get into the number one thing I don't like about autoflowers, go on a tangent, let a couple people join, start the conversation, and influence it into a different direction. So, I don't like the fact that you cannot clone, or at least not clone genetics effectively off of an autoflower, simply because of the fact that once that plant sprouts, the clock is ticking fairly rapidly towards the point where those genetics just will not be anymore because you can only harvest them once. It's not something you can re-veg, so it's going to be very hard to conserve genetics, especially if you like something that can be a big bummer. I've had plants where I've grown them for multiple generations, like 3 or 4 generations of just clones, and then I lose it forever, and I'm bummed pretty much every time. And I could not imagine just cycling through genetics like a lot of people do. Like, some people pop a new seed every single time and get something completely different every single time. I don't think I could do that. I think I'm always going to want to try to go for round two if I can. So, not being able to clone genetics really gets in the way of being able to appreciate how they grow, really learn a plant individually. Even though it's a clone, it is a clone. So, it's very sci-fi like. You get to see the plant grow for a second time. Maybe you do something a little different because you noticed it interacted with training, which we'll get into. Like, high stress training, you can't do that very well on an autoflower. You can do it, and it can have some increase in the low yield, but overall it's not generally recommended, and it does cut down on their lifespan when it comes to getting into the flower and then finishing off the flower, because it will stunt the growth for a couple of days, or even a day is very crucial, especially if you're the type of grower who prefers doing multiple rounds of topping. That would put a lot of stress on a plant. And every time you're doing like a defoliation, which I'm not sure how autoflowers really react to defoliations because I haven't had to personally deal with a plant that big. So it just kind of grew out. So I don't know what a mass defoliation could do to a plant, but I know defoliation does stress plants. So that's just another thing you're going to have to look out for. How big of a pot can I put this plant in for its lifespan, and why am I defoliating it in the first place? Like, do you have to, or do you not have to? Do it minimally. And every time you either top or you do a defoliation, you have to imagine every single tiny wound ends up adding up to a lot of stress because your plant has to heal itself to a certain degree to be able to grow back, and that can take a long time. Especially if you're talking about a big wound in one area, that can take a lot longer to heal than a bunch of small ones. I'm getting way off track, man. It is showing. I'm going on a crazy tangent and just ranting to myself in a bedroom. Anyway, we went over stress. We went over not being able to clone them. Being able to control the veg time is extremely crucial, in my opinion, to being able to push a genetic to a very big yield, taking up a lot of space. Um, Hello, my friend. I am very high. I took a giant dab before this. And by the way, if you guys watched my video about taking a break, that break ended up lasting like 4 days, and then I started smoking nightly for about a week, and now I'm pretty much back on the wagon. So if you guys wanted an update on that, I'm up there, brother. So so expect some wacky shit. So my plants are doing really good in the closet, but let's get back to talking about autos. What was the point I left off on? Controlling the veg time. So I personally like pushing for a longer veg. I've been known to do 3 month veg times, which is crazy, but I have had white widows that had very tight nodal structures, and to get them tall enough to where they would push a decent yield that I would say I'm proud of. Uh, for those plants, they did have to go through a longer veg time, so obviously they're eating more food, uh, they're taking up more time, but to get a yield I would have wanted to even out of a photo plant, sometimes you have to push it for a little while, get it to take up a bigger pot, get it to take up more light, more space, and in turn giving you more medication and just more dank to smoke on for a long time rather than a auto flowering plant, which veges for a limited time, flowers for a limited time, and usually ends up only like a couple feet tall, as opposed to some photo plants that I've grown up to like 7, 10 feet tall, just because I'm giving them that extra space and energy, and they are able to grow for a longer time. So that's something to keep in mind. Also, when it comes to the nutrients aspect of things and also pests, you're going to want to be able to have the flexibility to get rid of those issues before going into the flower stage. Because if you're going into the flower stage with issues, it's going to be very hard for your plant to go through the stretch effectively and also to put on bud mass and terpenes and trichomes and in turn, excuse me, in turn building up its THC and yield. So that's something you're going to want to look for. When picking out genetics, you're going to want to know if you're an experienced grower. I would recommend it would be easier to go with autos if you understand nutrients and how to feed, and if you're able to adapt quickly to things going wrong with a plant, uh, maybe you can go with an auto. But for the inexperienced grower, someone who's trying for the first time, or someone who wants to be able to conserve genetics and control the veg time and basically turn a plant into what you want it to be and have it be completely customizable in a sense, given the genetics are going to give you extreme limitations in that, especially if you consider not wanting to put as much time into something that's ridiculous. So, beginners, I thought in the beginning, before I got into growing and learning about genetics and how the plant actually grew, or even before I put a seed in the ground, about a year before I put in a seed in the ground, sorry, I thought it would be way easier to go with autos simply because we didn't have to change the light and we could keep it on for the same time as the 18:6 cycle, because I didn't understand that the only real difference between a flowering plant and a vegging plant is the light time. And then when I first learned about re-vegging, it blew my mind. And that's one of the things, or that's actually a list of things that turned me on to switching to the photo plant. It just seemed a lot more forgiving. It seemed a lot simpler. Um, and it's overall just more natural in a sense too, because if you're mimicking the actual sun, it's a lot it's a lot less forced in a way, but I don't know where I'm going with that. I don't really know what I mean by that, so we're just gonna move on. Um, One thing I hate about autos that I'm pretty sure has only happened to me is when you order seeds from a seed bank and you expect all photoperiod plants, but there's one auto in there that you then either have to call or you just have to grow it out like I did. And for me, it was a lemon kush that pretty much grew to about the size of a soda can in height and girth. So it put out large buds, but it was also a lemon kush, so they're prone to do that. So that's something that could have been expected. Um, if I would have known it was an auto, I definitely would have put it in a 7 gallon pot and saw what it could do and use it as an experiment. But unfortunately, it was mixed in with those photo period plants that I grew up to like 6 foot tall. They were a little bit taller than me, actually, maybe 6.5 feet. They were extremely tall, and you can actually look back on my channel. Those videos are still up of those giant lemon kush plants. So, if you're wondering why I'm doing a live stream and then also kind of putting in context like a video, it's not just because I felt like going live tonight. I actually did feel like making a video about this, but I'm getting to the point now where my channel is getting reviewed to where I'm going to be able to have audience members join my channel as a member. And if you don't know like what a membership is on YouTube and you're just unfamiliar with the idea or the context, basically what it means is you will pay a fee that I set and then you will get certain exclusive content and community posts that can be um, exclusive videos and live streams and stuff like that. So I am working on an idea right now for an exclusive piece of content that once I am able to have members join my channel, it's going to be a 4 time a month thing. It's going to be weekly, and I think it's going to be really cool. So look out for that. It should be happening anytime now. I didn't want to plug that in this live stream. That wasn't planned, but I'm running out of things to talk about when it comes to autos. So I'm just kind of biding my time, I suppose, and also letting you guys in on something pretty cool, I think. What else do we got? Do you guys have anything you either like or dislike about autos? I've been kind of trashing them this whole time, but I'm not a big fan of them. So I'm a little partial in that regard. Hmm. Kind of run out of things to talk about. Is that going to be it? A 13-minute stream? Feel like autos can make you a better grower? I mean, that's technically true. I could see that argument because growing a lot of different genetics rather than focusing on just one can have its strengths when it comes to practicing with genetics. But at the same time, on the other side of that coin, if you can dial in a plant and learn how to give it proper nutrition and focus on one, no time for mistakes. Yeah, that's good if you work under pressure. Like if you work under pressure well, an auto can certainly put in the time because you could like put on a calendar an X for the estimated days or gap of days that you are going to harvest that plant. You need to be on point with all your actions. Yeah, yeah, man. Once you put on that pressure and you have to be extremely calculated, that can make some people a better grower, but I could see how that would make some people want to give up also, because working under that kind of time constraint is extremely frustrating for some people. And if you're a beginner, it probably, again, won't be a great introduction to the world of cannabis. But if you are further along in your journey and you're like, I think I'm getting really good at this, I want to experiment with genetics quickly, I want to get through as many as I can, and if I don't like them, I want it to be easy to give away because there won't be very much, then I would go with autos to kind of perfect the craft and say you've done 100 genetics, but at the same time, you could also just try limiting yourself on photo periods because you could just go through after doing autos, photos are kind of annoying. That you may just have 110. Yeah, no, that's true too. If you only have 110 and you want to do a residual harvest, that's one of the things that I'm facing right now. Actually, I have 7 plants in that garden. I think that's important drawback to bring up. Actually, super relevant. I have 7 plants in that uh, closet right now. It's a 5 by 2 space. I have no way to separate it into 2 rooms, so I won't be able to take clones. I don't have a second space that I have set up to grow, so I won't be able to take clones. So yeah, that's a serious drawback too. If you're not able to take clones and you want to have a residual harvest setup, autos are a great plan, especially if you can find ones that flower in similar time. So thank you for bringing that up. I feel like that's an important thing to think about as well. Like, if you want to grow a ton of plants and have them at different times and not have to deal with multiple rooms, also. And if you don't want to put out the money for multiple tents, that's another plus for the autos. So yeah, that's an important point. That's a good point to bring up because it can be super annoying going through a photo period residual harvest if you clone at the wrong time or if you want to start from seed every time with photos, it can make things or if you have to start from seed every time with photos, it can make things uh, annoying, kind of a pain in the ass and kind of boring actually because a lot of the times you'll run out of weed like I did in between harvests. But with autos, you would be able to grow a ton of different maturities in different pots. And if you grow like 5 at a time, you still get good variety with low yield, so you won't have to have it around if you don't prefer it for very long. So yeah, that's a good point. And I actually have thought about growing autos. Yep, never had that with autos. Yeah. Yeah, that can be a bummer. Especially since more plants equals more bud. That is also true. Yep, more plants do equal more bud. For the Croptober series, I didn't have very many plants. Now I don't have very many plants. But if I was able to grow 12 at a time, which is the legal recreational amount of plants, if I grew in sets of 3, I could have them theoretically in like multiple different levels of growth and have harvests like every couple of weeks rather than having to have multiple rooms and cycle through them, have to clean them every time instead of like cleaning, taking the plants out, cleaning it thoroughly like once every month or something, and then putting them back in. Um, yeah, I don't know where I was going with that point. I'm kind of losing my train of thought, which is not a great state of mind to be in when you're on a live stream. But, all of the decisions in my life have led me to this moment, so I'm going to live it to the max. So let's go. So, yeah, so if you plant and then 3 weeks later you plant here, 3 weeks later you plant here, and then 3 weeks later you plant here, I think would be the last row. Every time you harvest here, you're planting back here again. And then everything else is in between. Bro, that's perfectly fine. That's kind of what conversations are for, is throwing each other off of different points to find a new trail to go down, man. That's just conversation. That's just human nature. So don't you be sorry for that, man. In one space with autos definitely would be perfectly possible. Pretty much all I would have to do is have a trellis net on half of the tent. And then when the autos start getting to Or maybe I wouldn't even need to do a trellis because autos are actually pretty strong. Does anyone do a trellis with autos, or is that just a photo thing because you can train them? Because I don't think I've seen an auto with a trellis around it. To come to think of it, but yeah, no, it would be super simple, especially if I didn't use a trellis. I might actually do that. Maybe when I go seed shopping, I will shop for autos. Plot twist. But I am planning on buying tents anyway. But maybe I'll buy one tent and just grow autos for a while, and I'll be the auto guy. That could be pretty cool for a little bit. The next couple around be autos. Let them grow the way they want, not no net needed. Yeah, that's good to know. And it does make sense since you're not supposed to do training with them. I'm just set on the idea of wanting to do a trellis, which I guess I could do with a photo inside of the closet if that. Come join the Source Club. The Source Club. What is that on? Is that on YouTube? Is that a channel or is that like a page somewhere? Or is it like a cult? Seeing all this shit, thinking I'm into going in the woods in gated communities randomly in the dark. Is that what this is? No, I'm just fucking with you. I have been watching a lot of cult shit though. Speaking of cults, I've been on a couple of Yield Source on YouTube. Thank you for that. Thank you for that plug, man. I'll definitely check it out. Check it out for sure. I think that sounds really familiar, actually. Might be a cult. That's good to know going in actually, because a lot of them they aren't kind enough to tell you, man. You just find out by surprise, and one day you're just drinking Kool-Aid or getting your baby murked or something. Till the end of the month, $5. Ah, what kind of cool stuff do they got going on for memberships? Or have you not been able to look at their content yet? Because I've been distracting you. Hmm. I am using Remo nutrients. I got that Happy Frog soil. I think the aeration is going out on it, so I think I'm gonna have to re-amend more into what I have in the closet, or not in the closet. Auto beans that we will be testing for new breeders. That sounds pretty interesting. But I'm wondering what aeration I want to get because I hear the perlite isn't super good for like reusability. That Yield Source has vetted. Do you mean like invented? Like they're looking for test breeders for their auto seeds that they originally came up with? Because that's pretty cool. Vermaculate. Is that a strain? Maybe. I do have to transplant 6 of the plants that are in there still. Yes, and they buy all top breeder beans and breed them into autos. That's a pretty interesting idea. I don't I don't think I actually ever learned how to breed autos. I did learn how to breed feminized seeds, and I'm thinking about doing breeding of my own down like down the road. And I don't know if I want to breed photos, feminized, or autos at this point. But is there like a special way to breed autos and get that trait out? Because I've never like looked into it. But anyway, to get back to my point, I was talking about my soil in my garage. I need to get it re-amended with aeration, and I don't know if I want to also make it organic soil that I then put these plants into and start a organic run again, or if I want to just put perlite in there and have it be like 1-to-1, and then transplant the plants, or what aeration I want to use even. But put the aeration in there because it needs it, because the perlite's pretty much gone, and then transplant them from there. Vermiculite is good for drainage and okay, so okay, awesome. I'll actually have to look into that because I haven't heard of that one. I heard of lava stone, pumice stone, and perlite are the three that I know. So I'll look into vermiculite and I'll see if I can find any of that. So thank you for that. Something to look into. I'll tell you what, man, I'm getting pretty tired, so I think I'm silica. Silica is very important. Now that you say silica, I think vermiculite might be ringing a bell, but I'm getting super tired. Thank you guys for the information. Thank you for the conversation. I hope you enjoyed what I had to say about autos and also my garden and whatnot. I get it from Garden Centre. Probably meant Garden Center, but I'll go with that. I'll probably be able to look it up on like Amazon or something, or find it in a hydro store. But I think that's going to be all. Thank you guys for joining. Leave a like if you have not yet, and I will see you next time. Thank you very much.